Right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Eugene Saburi. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Treasure Data. We are an enterprise customer data platform provider. And with me is Brett Goverman and Matthew Knapp, joining me from Penske Media Corporation, one of our great customers. And the session is really about how PMC launched a first party data strategy, why, what, and really what's next. And so I'd like to give Brett and Matt an opportunity to introduce themselves. Brett, why don't you go first?
Cool. Thanks for having us, Eugene. Appreciate it. Like you said, my name is Brett Goverman. I am Vice President of Data Strategy at PMC, and really that means that I oversee everything from identity to audience strategy to data monetization. Matt, you want to go for it?
Sure, thanks, Brett. My name is Matthew Knapp. I'm Director of Data at PMC, and I lead a team of about 10 data engineers and data analysts that work across the entire PMC portfolio.
Great. Thank you both. And I appreciate you spending the time with us. So first thing first, I think everybody's heard of Penske, but maybe not, people aren't familiar with the full breadth of what you actually do. I learned this when I first started working with you. So we'll start with Brett. Maybe you can tell us more about Penske Media Corporation.
Sure. Yeah, your experience isn't unique. I think a lot of people have that sort of reaction when they get introduced to Penske Media. One of the things we say is that we're probably the largest media company you've never heard of, right? And so Penske Media actually reaches over 130 million unique users per month, and that's by way of our iconic brands. And so some of these brands include some of the largest voices in the entertainment industry, and that includes Billboard Music. We have Rolling Stone, Variety, right? But we're also not just an entertainment publication. We also have lots of brands in the travel space, lots of brands in beauty and fashion, right? And so across all of these brands, this is really what comprises the digital side of Penske Media. But more recently, we've started to make strategic investments in live events, right? And this particularly includes the South by Southwest Festival, in addition to the Life is Beautiful Festival. And so, really, what we're trying to do is create this more holistic approach to engage with our audiences, both digitally as well as in the real world.
Yeah, those are all pretty impressive brands. In fact, when I was at the airport a couple days ago, I think I saw most of those magazines that you just referred to. Um, so maybe to level set, can you define what first party data is for us, and talk about why PMC started down this path where you have this first party data strategy, and at a high level, like how do you collect it, how do you leverage it, how do you activate it, and ultimately get value?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first party data is one of those things that you hear kind of thrown around a lot in the industry. And I think it really doesn't do it justice because the term comes with a ton of responsibility, right? And at the highest level, first party data can really be defined as data owned by the company that has the direct relationship with the end user, right? And this relationship is built on three components. It's built on value exchange, transparency, and the user's ability to opt out of said data collection, right? But there are myriads and myriads of types of first party data just depending on the type of business that you're in. But for PMC as a media company and a collection of publishers, we sort of stratify our first party data into three categories. We categorize, the first one is declared data, right? And again, this is exclusively based on some level of value exchange. So if you're signing up for a newsletter, you're signing up for an event, or maybe just partaking in a poll, this is information that you've given on your own volition based on some sort of value given back to you by the media company like PMC, right? And this is arguably probably the most valuable because it comes directly from the user and it enables you to collect all different types of data. The second type of first party data that we collect is behavioral data, and this is really about how users interact with PMC, right? How often are they returning to site? How long are they spending on page? How long are their sessions? What ads did they click on? What links did they click on? How all these types of metrics we can collect in real time to help us understand what type of content or what type of user engages most with our content, because that's really what helps us get to those sort of lower funnel types of audiences. And the last one is contextual data. And this is really core to our business, right? We are a media company. We create media to engage our users and build a stronger audience, right? And so we need to be able to understand at the most granular level what kind of information or what kind of content users are collecting, right? And so all of these types of data points are a function of users having a direct relationship with PMC, and therefore the data we collect is considered first party data. But Eugene, to that second point, how do we actually activate it? How do we actually take it to market? Right? There's a lot of different ways that we can activate it, but the most common is really for contextual targeting and audience targeting. Right? So contextual targeting is based on what the user is actually using, reading at that point in time. Right. So being able to say, we know that, let's say, an entertainment client wants to target users that are reading about streaming. Right. So we would then find all the streaming articles that we have and make sure that we serve the right message in the right environment to ensure that the message is getting across to the right user, right? But then the other way that we activate this information is with audience targeting. And this is really where first party data flourishes and becomes this exceptionally unique and proprietary solution that you can't get anywhere else. Because we're able to take all of those data signals that we collect across declared, contextual, and behavioral, package it up, and make sure that not only that users that are reading streaming content are seeing your message, but users that have interacted with streaming content in the past continue to see your messaging, right? Because users are holistic individuals. They're not just a person reading a page. They have lots of different interests. And at PMC, because we have so many varied interests, we're able to make sure that a premium brand is able to continue that conversation outside of just that single page. And this really helps us connect brands with the right users in the right time. But as far as getting value from it, this is really where we're able to kind of generate very unique insights across our entire portfolio of brands, right? We have content that spans across almost every interest vertical that's out there, which includes entertainment, music, fashion, beauty, parenting, tech, sports, luxury. I mean, there's even more than what's on this slide. But what we're able to do is once we have a partner that wants to run a media campaign with us, we're able to sort of unpack that individual and put together a profile graph of what those users are really most interested in from a contextual perspective. And again, really help those brands find the other interest sets for their target audience, right? So maybe we thought that streamers are only interested in streaming content, but what it might turn out is that streamers might actually be moms, they might be parents, and they might actually be reading parenting content as well. And that's an entirely net new opportunity that maybe our partner didn't think about to begin with. And so that's kind of a really basic overview of how we use our first party data and collect it. But this is sort of the strategy that we've put in place.
Thanks, Brett. Super helpful. Yeah, I think a lot of customers, have a good grasp on first-party data, but when dealing with it across brands like you do or different business units, yeah, it's super interesting to hear about how PMC manages it and uses it. So I guess related to this topic, the next question is for Matt. So we often hear from companies and teams that talk about getting internal buy-in as a key step or a hurdle that they had to overcome, especially when it comes to the overall first-party data strategy. And it may not be intuitively familiar to most people if they haven't been through it, but in your case, you have many different brands. So how did you get buy-in from your management and across the company on your first-party data strategy when you started on this journey 18 months ago?
Sure, thanks. There was a couple different drivers for adopting the CDP at PMC. Really, this all started with the depreciation of cookies, and that deadline, that Google was putting out there meant that we possibly might have to have an in-house first-party data solution in order to survive. And while that cookie deadline keeps getting pushed farther into the future, that same ambiguity of what will be next still remains. And the CDP, along with other tools, we think is going to put us in the best position to succeed. Um, and because PMC is multiple brands, we had many data silos, and we didn't have a way to, really productize our first party data. And regardless of the future of cookies, without knowing the depth and breadth of the data that we actually had across the entire portfolio, we felt like we were really missing out on opportunities. Um, and not only is the data siloed between brands, the data was siloed in different systems. So it goes without saying that centralizing and warehousing the user data is important, to any company, and especially to PMC. And to meet that goal, we would either need to build or buy something. And forgetting about, let's say, the maintenance and development of that system, the cloud computing costs alone of just hosting the infrastructure would be almost a significant percentage of what we paid to license the entire, Treasure Data CDP today. And additionally, our data team is built up. Uh, we have talented engineers, we have talented data analysts, but we're not application architects, and we don't have the experience or time to build in all of the privacy and security necessary for a system, that contains so much user data, touches all of our systems, and the ability to push and pull data between not only internal systems but multiple external systems as well.
Got it. Well, another follow-on question for you, Matt. So you got buy-in from all these stakeholders. You brought all this information into one place. What opportunities did that open up for your strategy, and what did you focus on?
Right. So, at a high level, as an online publisher, we have a massive audience, but 95% of them are anonymous, at least the first time they come to the site. And when an anonymous user comes and goes on any one of our properties, the only chance of monetization comes from the minutes or even seconds that they're seeing digital advertising on our sites. And so our overarching goal is converting unknown users into known users to be able to open up new revenue opportunities. And that is really, in my mind, what the CDP, why we adopted a CDP, and what Treasure Data CDP does well. And so there's really a never-ending list of revenue opportunities that are possible once the CDP is implemented. Um, you know, Once it's up and running and we have things connected, we're able to maximize the lifetime value of every user that comes to our site. And to give you an example, you can kind of let's imagine the journey of a single user coming to one of our properties for the first time. Um, Using the segment builder of the CDP and other capabilities inside the CDP, we're able to take advantage of the next best actions during that customer's journey. Um, so, as an example, let's say the first time user comes to the site, we can offer them the best fit newsletter subscription based on the segments that they fall into after just the first or second page view. During their next visit, we might decide the best opportunity is to ask them some survey questions to enhance their first party data profile. Um, if they click through from that newsletter a couple days later, we could offer this a subscription to a different newsletter. And without the CDP in place, we might be every time they return to the site, we might continually ask them to sign up for the same newsletter over and over again. The CDP makes sure that we're using data to make the best decisions at every point during the customer's journey. And at this point, we'll have a pretty good idea of the user's value to advertisers. And that gives us a good idea then of how much to spend to remarket to them, via Facebook to get them to come back to the site. And that integration with Facebook is built into the CDP, and it's really just choosing your segments and pushing a button, and that whole data flow works without too much work having to be done on our side. and as we learn more about that user, we could invite them to an online event that we know that they're likely to want to attend based on their behavior so far. And at that online event, we could offer them a 25% discount on subscriptions to one of our properties that we know they were probably going to be interested in. And that whole time, right, not only are we taking advantage of the different steps to be able to offer them different opportunities to engage with us, and to work with us, stay with us, that interaction that whole time is continuing to expand their first party data profile. And, with that, there's more, the opportunities just continue to build on themselves. And especially as that user graph grows, our sales team is able to sell higher value digital advertising campaigns.
That's great. As I sat here and listened to your response, I mean, there are numerous benefits for PMC, but I could picture myself as an end user. Actually, the experience for me is also improving at the same time. So it feels like a win-win. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great way to look at it.
great. So I have another follow-on question. This one's for Brett. So we've talked about all of the great brands that PMC has. And it's my understanding that this CDP currently is leveraged across 30 plus brands in your portfolio. And given the challenges that were just described by Matt around integration and security and privacy, how are you approaching this on your journey?
Yeah, there's no silver bullet to that problem, right? It's one of those things that will continuously be ongoing, right? I think if I had the answer of how to integrate data silos across 30 brands, I'd probably be the CEO of my own media company, right? And so it's something that we're always working on, right? And just to kind of give you some kind of a look behind the curtain, PMC is sort of structured as a holding company for each of these brands, right? The brands ultimately have full autonomy over how they run their business, right? They are the ones that drive their editorial strategy, their content strategy. And, Matt and myself in the PMC corporate structure is really here to provide expertise and make recommendations on how to improve their operations and provide, technology expertise on maybe ways that they could think about running their business, right? But that lends itself to the brands having a strong voice, but also maybe the brands have maybe different differentiating strategies and differentiating things that they might want to tackle. And so maybe the most difficult part is finding alignment across all of those brands in order to drive the holistic strategy of better monetizing our users and acquiring more registered users across the entire PMC ecosystem. So all that to say is it's still a work in progress, but we're certainly making sure that the brands understand our capabilities and understand the value that those capabilities bring to the table.
Super helpful. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to keep it globally consistent, but making sure that it's relevant for each of the brands. Um,
Exactly.
so on this journey that you've been, what are some gotchas or aha moments that maybe the audience can learn from? What are some things that you would tell people as they embark on this journey?
Yeah, there were certainly some technical gotchas, right? But that's any implementation, and certainly not something that was unexpected. It's impossible to read every piece of documentation and know exactly how everything is going to go. So, nothing that was particularly concerning from the tech side, but really once we sort of dug in and understood the capabilities, I think what we really found was that the CDP was really better suited for understanding our most valuable users, right? Which are those users that are already authenticated, right? Where our initial use case was, hey, like we need to get more people to authenticate, and we're going to use the CDP for that. And not to say that the CDP can't do that, but what we found was our ability to truly unearth the value and the interests and the interactions of those users that are known was far beyond what we expected, right? And so that's where we started to pivot and start to focus a lot more of our energy is how do we actually increase the lifetime value of our most valuable users, right? Instead of kind of the opposite, which was our sort of intended use case. And so while it was a gotcha for sure, I think it's something that we've started to lean more as an organization into to really elevate the most valuable users that interact with our brands.
Super helpful. Super helpful. So, as I travel around the world and talk to different customers, obviously, this hanging economic uncertainty that these are unique times that we all live in. But I do hear, the words efficiency and added value kind of at the same time, and it's clear that those are top of mind for many companies. In some ways, it's almost like there's tension between them, right? Because added value means inherently you have to do more, but efficiency means doing more with less. So, how are you making the shift, towards this concept of performance marketing, and how does technology help you with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are also no stranger to the term added value, because we hear it more and more, from our partners, given the sort of economic climate. And there's a lot of ways that we can approach this, and it's really dependent on what the customer is trying to accomplish, right? I think, Eugene, you probably know this better than anybody, that if you give somebody a package solution, that you give to everyone, it maybe doesn't hit the nail on the head every single time, right? And so, for me to say that this is our added value package really doesn't add value for a customer in any way. And so, something where we have seen success, again, not for every customer, but for certain ones, is being able to sort of pair traditionally siloed services across our business into a single offering. And this is one of the ways that we've done that, which is by combining our e-commerce business with our targeted advertising business, along with our sort of first party data analytics capabilities that we've developed, right? And so in this case, really where someone might traditionally just buy some branded content or some affiliate links, or someone might just buy targeted media and run ads across the entire PMC network, we're now merging these offerings to sort of create a flywheel kind of process where we can start to better understand users that interact with e-commerce content. We can better understand users that interact with the targeted advertising associated with that brand or that product, and then use those insights to better inform our content strategy, to better inform our ad targeting strategy, and to make sure that the right users and the most engaged users are continuing to be engaged with our brands based on the interest set and the engagement that we're seeing. And so this not only adds value from a services perspective, because you're getting more from across the entire PMC company, but we're actually able to be far more efficient with the dollars that are being spent. And so this is really one of the ways that we're quote unquote providing added value, because I never like to say that it's free, but I personally, from the results we've seen, it certainly adds much more value to our customers.
This is great. What I love about this visual and what you're telling me is, you're kind of killing multiple birds with one stone, and it's reinforcing across, particularly around targeted advertising in your e-commerce business. That's great, and of course, you're getting insights from both.
Exactly.
Well, we're coming up on time, so I want to ask my one last question, and I think our audience is also wondering. So, as you look to the future, what projects or enhancements are on the horizon?
I mean, depending on which week you ask me this question, you might get a different one, right? Just because of the nature of our industry and all the sort of moving pieces. But, the best thing about a CDP is that you have lots of tools at your disposal and you can go a lot of different directions. But, in speaking with our leadership teams and kind of working with the brands, I think where we're looking to focus in on is really sort of two strategies. One is personalized experiences, and the other is omni-channel marketing, or what you would call cross-channel marketing, right? And so, the opportunity on the personalized experiences is really that we need to maintain a competitive offering, with our peers, right? And I think that you might think our peers are Hearst, or our peers are dot dash Meredith, right? But the reality is that we also compete with Google, we also compete with TikTok, we also compete with Facebook, Instagram, all those other large platforms where media dollars go, the majority of media dollars actually. And so from a personalized experience standpoint, we need to make sure that we're offering a competitive experience to what you would see on TikTok or Instagram, right? We all know that those are continuously optimizing for content that you as a user might be interested or have already said you're interested in. And so a CDP enables us to start to develop those same capabilities across our entire network. And the best part about it is because we're plugged into so many different contextual verticals, we have the ability to replicate a similar experience across our platform. And most importantly, this drives value for our end user, which will then increase their likelihood to interact with our brands and drive monetization. And then the last one's omni-channel marketing. And I think that this one seems really straightforward, but as you sort of peel the onion back, you realize how complex it can actually be. And strictly based on the amount of touch points that we have with our users, right? We have live events, we have digital events, we have print subscriptions, we have digital subscriptions, we have newsletters, we have so many different touch points with all of our users that it can be exceptionally difficult to make sure that you're reaching out to a specific individual in a strategic way, or even on a consistent basis for that matter. And so really what we want to be able to do is bring omni-channel products to our customers and say, not only can you run a targeted media campaign and reach these folks, you can reach a subset of these folks on social. You can reach a subset of these folks through newsletters. You can also reach a subset of these folks through our live and digital events, or vice versa. You can take people that attended a live event and scale it up through our targeted media campaigns, or scale it through our newsletters, right? But depending on what the sort of objective is of that advertiser, the omni-channel marketing really enables them to either build an audience or zero in on an audience, depending on the sort of behavior or objectives that they want to see from their campaign. And we feel that that separates us from a lot of our competitors out there based on the brand loyalty that we have and based on the expertise that we have in our respective markets.
Super helpful. And it's exciting to hear about what you've got lined up on your roadmap. Well, we're at time. First of all, I want to thank you both for spending the time with us over the last 40 minutes or so. And just really appreciate the insights that you've shared. For our audience, hopefully it gave you good insight into who Penske Media Corporation is, but also why they embarked on a first-party strategy, kind of the trials and tribulations through the whole process, and of course how they're thinking about our future. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to Brett and Matt.
Thanks, Eugene.
Thank you.